Nadiya here did very well in her session. So good, we're going to give her a treat. She has a nice soft mouth, so I can do this, which really helps. Her guardian said that, originally when we talked about why she wanted to set up the session, it was she gets a little aggressive on the leash and sometimes protective around the guardian. And although the guardian did start to incorporate some rules and boundaries, it was after she started watching some of the videos that I have on my website. And so for dogs, if they don't have a lot of rules, they can get the impression that they're equals with their humans. And if they nudge the humans and tell the humans what to do and the humans consistently do it, that can give the dog the impression that it has more authority than the human and they are responsible for the humans. A lot of times that creates a dog that is protective or possessive. And I think that we had a little bit of that going on here. I haven't witnessed anything aggressive with her throughout the whole 3 hours that we've been here. So I think this is just really a confusion. Now there are some dominance issues, some leadership issues. Like I talked about earlier in the first video or second video about her putting her paw up on my arm, that's a dominance issue. Her trying to move out the door ahead of time is a dominance issue. Her invading personal space or getting too close when we're eating. Those are all illustrative of her not having the appropriate sit, respect for authority. So in order to flip the leader-follower dynamic, we went over some of the suggestions I made were to incorporate more rules. The guardian already had some, but I would make all furniture off limits. Right now, the guardian was allowing her on the furniture down the basement, but not up here. That's hard for dogs to make the distinction. Why can I sit on that one and not on this one? And so this helps the dogs see the humans as having more authority than the dogs, because for dogs, the higher they sit, the more perceived rank or status they have in their social setting. Other rules would be not being allowed to be within 7 feet of anyone who's eating, not being allowed to be in the kitchen when food is being prepared, having to sit before we let them in or out of the door. Remember, if we go to the door and say sit, she doesn't sit, I walk away. I only say it once. Then I walk away for 1 minute, and then come back and I say sit. She sits, then as soon as she sits, I open the door and let her out. If she doesn't sit, then I walk away for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, next time for 8 minutes. So we're gonna increase the length of time, doubling it essentially every time she doesn't do what we want until she does it right away. This way, eventually the dog will just start going to the door and sitting down. Now, she may be a candidate for our counter conditioning class that we run every Saturday. If the guardian wants to sign up for that, all she has to do is call Adam, my assistant, and let him know, and he'll get her signed up for that. We can also use that counter conditioning technique with the mailman. We talked about it, using it in a couple of different contexts. Right here, you see she's getting a little bit more aggressive in terms of reaching for the paw and accosting my hand. Sit. But just because I have treats doesn't mean just because she sits, she gets it. I petted her and I said the word sit, but I didn't give her the treat. She didn't have to get a treat for that. Now, treats are great. They're a way to pay the dog, but we don't have to pay them for every little thing. Sit. Sometimes affection is a good reward as well. Speaking of attention and affection, I would like to see the guardian practicing my petting with a purpose method, which means we're not going to pet the dog unless it does something to earn it first. Sit, come, lay down, whatever it is. And again, if she does that, we are immediately going to stop petting her. So what we would do for that is every time she nudges me, I'm going to, instead of doing what she wants and petting her, I'm going to give her a counter order, tell her to sit. When she sits, I'm going to pet her on her chin. And keep doing it until, just like that, she stops doing it. And say just the word sit. Don't say good sit or her name sit, just sit. And try to pet her under her chin. When a dog feels good about what's done, his nose is parallel to the ground or tilted upward. So petting her on her chin, it facilitates that good body mechanic. We can also scratch her butt or pet her anywhere else, but what we don't want to do is pat her on top of the head. For a lot of dogs, insecure dogs look down. Their nose is pointed down. So if we petting the dog on top of the head, sometimes that can kind of help the dog feel a little bit unnerved or a little bit insecure. I'd also like the guardian to go to YouTube and find, like for the next 4 months or 2 months, once a week, find one trick to train the dog. Preferably a trick, at least a couple of them, that incorporate things that require control by the dog, like balancing a treat on their nose, having to sit and wait for permission to do something. That delayed gratification will help the dog develop more self-control. But also, most of the more reactive dogs are very insecure dogs. The more commands and tricks the dog knows, the more confident it will be and the less needy it is for the dog to be reactive on walks. Now, I'd also like the guardian to, in addition to petting with a purpose, which there are videos for that on doggoneproblems.com. So if you forget how to do that, go to doggoneproblems.com, click the dog training tips link, and then click on the right side of the page, there'll be a search box. You can type in Escalating Consequences, petting with a purpose, passive training, focus exercise, leashing exercise, All these different techniques that we've talked about. Search for them, just kennel, crate, whatever it is. There's thousands of training videos on my website. You'll probably be able to find something that will help you with whatever the problem is that you have. So I'd like the guardian to use passive training to reward the dog for desired actions and behaviors. So when she comes back to me, I will do it, which is passive training, just simply rewarding the dog for doing what I already did. Come. I didn't ask her to come. She was doing it on her own volition. But as soon as she came, I petted her and said the word come. And just the word come. Not good come, not her name, just the word come. So every time she comes to me, I pet her and say come. Then when I actually call her to come and give her a command to come, she is much more inclined to come because she is associated with getting a reward. I would do this with sit, with down, with anything that she does on a regular basis. I was talking to guardians about I do some fun things. Like I taught my dog to stretch this way or to grumble. You can teach your dog anything it does on its own. Just make sure you mark it within 3 seconds and give it a reward and say that, marking it by giving a command word. Remember, only use give a dog a correction a command once. Sit. If they don't do it, then either use your hand manipulation to put them into a sit or do something else. But if you say it over and over again, the more you say it, the less you mean it to a dog. Let me see, what else did we go over? We went over the focus exercise. There are a lot of training videos on my website to do this. I think the guardian had been practicing this, but she'd been doing a little bit of an odd order. So make sure you're waiting for the dog to look at you, then you're raising the treat, keeping it in the dog's line of vision, popping it in its mouth. Remember, we're going to start off by doing it inside in different places throughout the house until we can get the dog to focus on it for 20 seconds in a row. But don't jump up there. First, it would be like 10 to 12 treats, focus 1 second, 1 second. 1 second up, 1 second towards the dog. And once the dog does that and it's pretty much staring at you, then we can start going 1 second up and then 2 seconds towards the dog. And for all 12 treats. Then maybe the next time we do 1 second and then 3 seconds towards the dog. We're going to progressively extend the length of time on that second delivery until eventually it's 20 seconds. Once we can do it 20 seconds anywhere in the house, the next step is to do it in the backyard. Now we're going to go back to 1 second instead of 20 because it's more stimulus-rich environment. And once we can do 1 second for all 12 treats, then we go 2 seconds and work our way back up to 20. Next thing we're going to do is do it when we're on a walk. Now we're doing it on a walk. Every once in a while when there's no dogs around, say focus, and the dog looks up at you, focus, or don't do that. That's what a lot of my clients do. So you say focus, and the dog looks up, go, raise it up, focus, as you're walking. And then you go back to 1 second again. And again, do this when there are no dogs or people, squirrels, nothing around. Easy for her to do it. And then we're gradually going to lengthen it until eventually we can be walking, and for 20 paces, the dog is like walking, looking up, and running into stuff because it's looking up at you, and you've taught it to redirect its attention. Once you have that case, that setup, then if your dog sees a dog across the street, you say focus, they look up at you, you pull out the treat, you're doing this, and you get the dog to pass you. By the time you deliver the treat, the dog is already passed. And if you do find yourself in a situation where your dog can't listen to you, it's focused on another dog or squirrel or something, always increase the distance. Walk your dog away from whatever it is. If you have to, walk around a tree or a car or a house or something to block their line of sight. Wait for them to settle down before trying to go back again. Always increase the distance to lower the intensity for the dog. Let me see, what else did we go over? She is sometimes reactive when approached. So one of the little techniques that I came up with one of my clients was we had people go to like the Bob Carey pedestrian bridge, but you can go anywhere where there's a public place where a lot of people are going to be walking around that's dog friendly. What I would do is have you with your dog and I found it's helpful if you have like a little bit of a bowl or something that they can throw the treat into. And basically what if you're by yourself, it's a little bit more difficult. If you can find a friend, you're maybe holding the dog here. You have a friend who's sociable. If somebody's walking the path in front of you, you say, hey, can you help us out? We're trying to teach our dog, she was abused in a bad situation. We're just trying to teach her that people are good. When you walk by, can you just throw this treat in the bowl in front of her? You don't even have to touch her. Sure. People walk by, toss it in there and walk by. So as it goes in the bowl, lead her up to it and get the treat. You can come up with a command word and mark it by saying friend or something along those lines, friendly or something like that. So the dog starts to hear that. Friend can become a verbal cue that this is somebody that's good. Now keep on doing this until the dog is nice and relaxed. If the dog is barking at the people as they're passing by, the dog is too close. You need to move the dog further away. And then we leave the bowl up there. That way they have a target that's easy for the people to throw the treat in. But eventually the goal is to get the dog right next to the bowl so they're tossing the treat at the bowl. she can catch. If she's pretty reliable about it, we could just have the person, that would be maybe the next stage. First we do the bowl. When they get close enough, we just toss the treat right in her mouth. And when it touches into her mouth, you would say friend or friendly or whatever the word is that you associate with it. So now she starts to associate. When people I don't know come by, like the best treats ever fall from the sky, or they throw them into my mouth directly. I like these new people. Eventually, we'd like to get to the point where the person can walk by and hand her a treat. When I do it, I would hold it in my palm of my hand like this and let her lick it off my hand. And I'd probably have the handler doing it first. They come up, hey, I wanted to give her a treat. Sure. Go like this, let her lick it off your hand, and then hand them another one. They'll do the same thing. And now she just did a practice run, a dry run, and she should just lick it off their hand. Tell them not to try to pet her, just walk away. We might need to incorporate 4 or 5 practice sessions where she gets maybe 20 or 40 treats from people who are just walking by and not one of them touches her. For her, the touching, I found out at the beginning of the session, unfortunately, in a very disgusting manner, she was sexually abused in a previous home. And so she's probably got some trust issues. She's very well adjusted comparatively based on that from what I've experienced in the session, but she might be wary of strangers until we create a positive association. So this is a nice, easy way to use positive dog training to help create a positive association, make her want to meet new people because she associates getting these high-value treats with them. We went on a walk, and I showed the Guardian how to use martingale collars. Be careful your finger doesn't get in the way. And how to use the special twist of the leash to have more control of the martingale. I corrected her once, and after that she was walking in a perfect heel. Now the Guardian is practicing on her heel technique with a different dog trainer, and which is great because she uses positive reinforcement. If you hire a dog trainer and they want to use a prong collar, a choke chain, a shock collar, or they're very pushy, shoving your dog around alpha rolls, those are somebody that is using the wrong technique, an old technique that is out of date. It's in your job title, train. If you're a dog trainer, your job should be to train the dog, not to use equipment that causes the dog pain or discomfort if it breaks the rules. That's just abuse as far as I'm concerned. There's a reason prong collars are illegal in almost every country except for the United States. Or we're dumb about that one, because it causes pain. I want my dog to want to do what I want it to do, not to do it out of a fear of reprisals. All right, let me see. I think the family is going to be hard for them to pet with a purpose, so remember to remind each other if we here or come, excuse me. Remember, anytime that we see the dog comes and sits next to us, here or come or sit or whatever it is, you can do it on command. Sit. And again, you can use your hand motion like this. And put her in SIT and go over her head. Just like, but I don't smell the treats in that hand. Let's try that one more time. Come over here. Up over the head. Sit. As soon as she sits down, lower your hand, let her lick it off your hand, and tickle under her chin and say the word sit. And avoid saying good dog or good sit or go potty. Don't use adjectives. Just use the command word. And commands should be one-word commands whenever possible. I always say good dog if we're sitting here watching TV, it's commercial, and the dog's doing nothing different. I say, you're such a good dog. That's a good time to say it. But if the dog is coming to me, I say good dog. Or it poops, I say good dog. It eats, I say good dog. It means everything, so it doesn't mean anything. That reminds me, the Guardian forgot, I was having a little bit of difficulty with some of the escalating consequences that we went over. I have videos for this. Escalating consequences is what you would search for. Go to dog training tips on my website, type in escalating consequences with 2 words. Write-ups where I have a video where I expound on the escalating consequences will be in there. Just as a quick recap, first one is a hiss. Only hiss 1 time per incident and match the intensity of your hiss to the dog's energy. Rule number 2 is standing up abruptly. Remember, your authority is directional. It goes whatever direction your belly button is pointing. So keep pivoting and keep that dog in front of you until it's stationary. As soon as it's stationary, take 2 steps backwards. Stationary can be standing, sitting, or lying down. Sit. The third consequence is marching directly at the dog until the dog turns sideways or greater. As soon as it turns sideways, stop in place. Then we go to the second consequence. We're pivoting our hips until that dog's stationary. Then we take 2 steps backwards. Then after a pause, then we can go back to doing what we're doing. The fourth consequence is putting the dog on a leash timeout. Stepping on the leash, in her case about 3 feet down, away from where it attaches to her leash. We wait for her to sit. We do not tell her to sit. As soon as she sits, I take the foot that's on the leash that's closest to her, I slide it to her to take the tension off of the leash. Remember, she only has enough room to stand or sit, about 3 feet on the leash. When she lays down, we take my foot off of the leash. Now, I don't tell them to sit, I don't tell them to lie down. If we tell them to do either one of those two things that we think, we're done. We can go back to what we're doing. When she lays down, I take my foot off the leash. She is now free. The leash is still attached. Now, it's dangerous for a dog to be dragging around a leash unsupervised. So make sure you're supervising her when she does this. But if she breaks the rule again, as she runs by, she can step on the leash and reapply the consequence. But if a couple minutes go by and she stays calm, she's listening to you, then we detach the leash. It's not quid pro quo. So if I am defiant, then I lose all freedom in the house. Remember, I warned you not to do it with the hiss before you did it. You did it anyway, so I stood up. You did it again, so I marched at you. You did it again, so now you lose all freedom in the house. When you lay down, you communicate, you surrender, and you've returned to a completely calm state of mind on your own, then freedom is restored. Privileges are restored. Let me see. The guardian also asked about feeding. She was feeding in a good way, but I'd like to add a little bit more structure. She was making the dog sit and wait until she put the food in the bowl or put the bowl on the floor. What I do is I find an area that's kind of defendable where it has a small entrance. And I fill up the food bowl and I put it down on the ground, and I don't let the dog near within 7 feet of it. Then I grab some chips or crackers, and then I eat 5 or more bites of something. When I'm done, I give the dog permission to eat. When the dog goes over and takes the first bite of food, I would say grub, chow, feast, whatever the command word is, and when she takes that first bite. And after we do that for about 2 or 3 months, that becomes the command word. I say chow, she goes, that means I have permission to eat. And eventually, the guardian should be able to do what I do, and you can leave the room and go to the other side of the house, and the dog doesn't actually take the food until it hears that command word. Down. That was a good down. Let me see. A structured walk. I have 5 rules for structured walk. If you go to doggonproblems.com and click on, type in structured walk on the dog training tips page, you'll find the 5 rules for structured walk that I share with my clients to get them to walk without pulling on the leash. And then, like I said, if you want to get her signed up for our counter conditioning class, let us know. We only do that until it gets cold out. So we're probably only going to have about maybe 8 to 12 of these left until it gets too cold to be able to do this. So if you do want to do it, start it sooner rather than later. From what I'm seeing for her, I don't think you're going to need a lot. But I'm not seeing her in context of being around other dogs, so I don't know. All right, is there anything else I forgot? I think that's going to do it, huh? Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it. Focus. Focus.